Oklahoma and Texas are officially joining the SEC in 2024. Now, of course, this affects Auburn, so we're going to talk about that on this edition of Good Morning Auburn. War Eagle Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network, and of course, Good Morning Auburn. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Before we get started today, I always want to remind you of a few things. Make sure you smash that like button if you enjoy this type of content. And be sure to also check in with us right now. Post where you're watching from, if you're watching live or even on the replay. City, state, international, where the War Eagle would love to know who's here hanging out with us, spending some time talking about this particular topic in the Auburn family spectrum. Now, this is one today where we are talking about something that is not necessarily directly Auburn related or Auburn football related, even though that's mainly the place that we're going to go with this conversation. But the topic at hand today is more of a general college football, college-wide discussion, which obviously when you trickle it back down, especially in the case of this particular instance, affects Auburn sports dramatically. Texas and Oklahoma, for the longest time, have been planning to come to the SEC in 2015. From the moment that was announced, 2 years ago, I feel like at this point, maybe a year ago, I can't remember when it was exactly first announced. The speculation was that they would be there much sooner than a lot of people anticipated. What happened? Well, a lot of other things fell into place. Playoff committee type of situations or discussions or decisions about expanding that happened. Other seismic shifts in expansion for conferences and stuff happened, opening the door for a little bit quicker start to the new era of the SEC, which will now be in 2024. Texas and Oklahoma are officially leaving at the end of the season, summer of 2024. So this is your last of this next cycle after we get done with this spring. The fall of 2023 and the spring of 2024 are the last time that you will see Texas and Oklahoma competing in the Big 12, and then from nevermore be part of the SEC. Would love to know your thoughts and opinions about this subject. What do you think about it? How are you processing it? Because to me, I think the initial shock of this is already over, right? We've already known that they were coming. It was just a matter of time. But I think now it's becoming a reality for a lot of folks, like it is obviously for me. I'm starting to actually think about what does this actually mean for Auburn football? What is and the SEC at large? What does this particularly mean in those categories? I mean, obviously, it means two humongous opponents in a variety of sports, namely college football, that now Auburn will have to face on a somewhat regular basis. The scheduling is probably the next shoe to drop because of this. So when we ask the question, how does this affect Auburn, which is what we always relate back to in this series, especially when we talk about something that's very a general topic, how do we relate back to that? What's the next wave of this, with this being a year and a half away, maybe a little less than that? Scheduling is going to be altered. We already know next year's football schedules and things like that, but we're going to start getting information about how SEC scheduling will go from now on. And I'm really excited to find out about that. I'm really excited to hear what they potentially will come out about all that. Will there be a pod system? Will there be I've seen it thrown out, the 3 permanents, 6 rotations, and we switch to a 9 SEC game. So really, the biggest thing when we talk about college football, when we talk about Auburn football, what this means is that Texas and Oklahoma are now going to not only be here sooner, but it's going to shift the SEC scheduling dramatically over the next year and a half, which will be really interesting to see, because you usually see them drop the schedule for the next year about midway through the current season that they're in. So that means in about, I'm doing math, 8 months, 7, 8 months, we could know what this new system will officially look like, although I'm sure we'll have discussions and reports about what the actual pod or divisions or whatever will happen at that point. What does it also mean outside of football? I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but I believe we did some type of video or something about when the announcement came a year and change ago about what Texas and Oklahoma are bringing to the table outside of college football. We can all admit Oklahoma and Texas did not have the best years this last year. I think they would admit that too. But that's probably going to always improve with their situation, their prowess, their prestige, all the P's, whatever you power, all of those things. But there was when they first announced Texas and Oklahoma were coming in, however, whenever that was, I looked at that current season of other sports and what they brought to the table. Oklahoma and Texas alone had more championships, whether they were individual sport championships, team sport championships, and I believe I'm quoting this correctly, than obviously the SEC as a whole. But I think most major conferences, just the two of them. That's crazy. Think about that. Of all the sports that, and I only looked at the ones Auburn participates in, not the ones that Texas or Oklahoma might have, because I think Oklahoma's got a rowing team or something like that, that we don't have. I only looked at the ones that Auburn's compete in. Out of all of those sports, they are bringing more championships from that season, if they had joined that year, to the table than the SEC entirely. It was Texas, I think, who almost did it by themselves. So college football, yes, is king. College football, Auburn football is what we're most worried about, if we're honest, and what this means. But them coming early means a lot for other Auburn athletics. It really does. There's a lot of challenges that they're going to present to the table in a variety of sports, and we just got better. So to me, what this does also for Auburn is helps them make the case again that their conference is the best that they play in. So when Auburn will be in those conversations, like, well, what type of conference have they played? So they take basketball this season. Auburn basketball is in a very tough conference, especially this season, very eating each other up conference. It's going to be even worse if they were already here. Oklahoma and Texas are year in and year out at least very competitive, if not sometimes one of the better teams, top 25 teams in the country. It goes up and down. Obviously, I don't really know where they're sitting at the moment, but we'll have to start paying attention to them sooner rather than later, right? Texas and Oklahoma being part of the SEC will help Auburn in some instances. Obviously, the more talent, the more competitive, the more challenging it is for someone to beat your conference. When they play them in non-conference, the better it looks for you when you beat up on each other in conference play. So that just got harder, whether it's men's basketball, women's basketball, volleyball, everything. It just got tougher. Texas and Oklahoma arriving 2024. What it also does for Auburn is it'll help maybe even bring in some more people, or at least get people to look further at Auburn, whether it is recruiting for sports, recruiting for students, all that kind of thing. Now, people go where they want to go regardless, and very few times does conference affiliation, if I would say barely any, make their decision on where they go. But you got to know now, that's an enticing thing to know, that if you're someone that was, considering wanting to out there in the Midwest, or not the Midwest, I shouldn't say, the Southwest, the middle of the America, and wanting to deciding whether to go to Oklahoma or to Texas. But now that you get to be part of the SEC, compete with that, see those teams, be part of that SEC chant, if that's what gets you up in the morning, that can be a selling point as well. So what that also can do is get more people's eyes on Auburn for coming to school here, for coming to play sports here, all those things. More opportunities, more markets for Auburn to appear in, to expand its brand. So you see what we can do here. Like, obviously, there are challenges that Texas and Oklahoma bring to the table in just what they bring to the table in terms of sports, college football. but there's also advantages as well. And we can walk that out several different ways that we want to and how we talk about that. But Texas and Oklahoma arrive in 2024. I, for one, am very happy about this. I wouldn't say I was indifferent. I shouldn't say indifferent because I act like I don't care. Just didn't know which way to swing on the pendulum when they first announced this. But the more I've thought about it, the more excited I am to have Texas and Oklahoma arrive in, well, at that time, 2025, now in 24. It feels like a fresh start, something new. It's not something completely foreign being added to our conference like a Missouri, who doesn't really fit that much, but now would. Wait, let me just take a quick aside from what I'm talking about here. My hope is that they're really going to, whatever they do with the scheduling, I think they really could have fixed the SEC divisions and stuff with this now and made the Southwest Conference and the Southeast Conference and made them the bigger Southeast Conference, however you, or the Southern Conference, whatever you want to call it. That could have been potentially a thing. But I was in favor of the. I'm in favor of this. I'm really excited about Texas and Oklahoma coming. I'm excited about the challenge. And I hope you are too. I know some people are very upset. I shouldn't say very upset, at least perturbed about change. And I get that. I'm a nostalgia person. I don't like things to change. But for Auburn to benefit, for the SEC to benefit, times are changing. And we must keep up, especially with the Big Ten dropping the hammer that they're going to continue to expand probably, or at least they made efforts to do that with adding USC and UCLA to their mix in the coming future with the Rose Bowl and all that kind of stuff, deciding it didn't have to be Big 12, Big 10, Pac-12 exclusive or whatever it was going to be now. So that's something that's also going to do. So I'm really in favor of it. I'm really excited about it, and I'm excited to see how this is going to affect Auburn. Rob says, I haven't read much into it. Which division are they going? So that's a big question, Rob. We don't know yet. I don't. My assumption is that we are done with divisions in what we understand as divisions. We did a video. I know we did this video right when all this came out about pods versus divisions. And I think you could make it work either way that way. Here's the reality and the biggest thing, part of this, when we talk about how it affects Auburn. SEC games are going to 9 games. Like that has to be done. We're getting rid of one of these rinky-dink non-conference games that every one of these teams play every year and going to 9 conference games. It has to happen now. There's just no way. You will never see the other side in its current format if you don't go to 9 games. But that format's going to change too. So obviously in a division situation, geographical, it makes sense for them to go in the West. In that case, you should move Missouri back over there and put Auburn, Alabama over in the East, in my opinion. I think that makes the most sense. And actually, I think that's pretty fair, even though that puts right now Alabama and Georgia on both sides of that division. But I do think it would be beneficial to teams, to the conference in the long term. It would make it very competitive and create that Southwest versus SEC type of true old SEC type of feel. That's what I would like for it to be, and that's what I would see it doing at some point. But right now, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm hearing we could see an SEC 2 channel. Now, are you being funny or are you being true? That would the Texas situation with their own channel. I forgot how that was all going to be handled, but yeah. And yes, Auburn should make if there's going to be a division, Auburn should make a push to be back in the East where it belongs. And geographically, traditionally, opponent-wise, that's where Auburn belongs. Auburn belongs in the same division with Alabama, yes, but with Tennessee, with Florida, with Georgia. That is our traditional history. That's where we belong. So there's that element as well. So if you guys got any other thoughts or opinions about that particular topic, drop them right now. Let me give you a couple of reminders. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a little preview. I'm going to Auburn today. At least that's the plan at this moment, to go cover Pearlville 2.0. So stay tuned today, maybe tomorrow, on YouTube, on social media. You never know what we might do for you. So just stay tuned for that Auburn versus Alabama matchup. I don't have a ticket. So if anybody out there knows of a cheap ticket, let me know. Other than that, our next scheduled live stream will be our post-game live stream for the Alabama game. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, be a subscriber if you're not, so you can get to be a part of that subscriber giveaway. And then you can be a channel member, a booster club member. Those are some of the ways listed in the description for ways that you can help keep the lights on here at E2 or make the lights better here at E2C Network. And we appreciate those of you that do that. It means the world to us. So thank you so much. But you don't have to. The big thing is we just want you here, hanging out with us, spend some time talking about this. That means a lot. Drop my Auburn Tennessee tickets for $1,200 each. That's crazy. Yeah. See, I don't think I'm getting into this Alabama game. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Again, Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC early. We all knew it was coming, and now it's official. Get excited. It will affect Auburn in some good ways and bad ways, but ultimately, I think it's good for Auburn and it's good for the SEC. We appreciate you being here to talk with us about it today. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.